To me, the most impressive thing about Ahmed is what he's made of his story. Ahmed is an Australian national champion, a 2-time Paralympian in swimming, and is aiming for a 3rd Paralympics. He's also a multi-class world record holder and is studying a Bachelor of Arts at Trobe University on top of his swimming commitments at the National Training Centre at the AIS. Every time I see Ahmed at the pool, he's always smiling and happy. When you speak to him, it feels as though you are the single most important thing to him in that moment, because you are. No matter who he's speaking to, Ahmed is constantly positive and attentive. So on that note, I'm so excited to introduce Ahmed with his talk titled The Power of Being Positive. Please make him feel welcome.
Good evening, everybody. I hope you've all had a wonderful evening so far. Chelsea, thank you so much for that introduction. We live in a world with infinite possibilities. Granted, right now, this is not so with COVID and everything like that. But outside of that, we do live in a world with infinite possibilities. And it is up to us to make the most of our opportunities and to do so in the right attitude. A negative one will lead to doors being shut. A positive one will lead you to doing things that you wouldn't have thought you would be doing. So if you ask me as a young child, or heck, even as a young teenager, that I would have an opportunity to represent Australia, I wouldn't have thought that was going to be possible. But here I am, working very hard towards my 3rd Paralympic Games, and one, I couldn't do so on my own. So I thought I'd take you quickly through a journey of mine. As a young child, all I ever wanted to do was make the most of every day. That's what every child does. We don't really care about what people are judging us on or the different thoughts. But I got this amazing opportunity in 2000 by a lady called Moira Kelly, who brought both Emmanuel and I to Australia to receive life-changing operations. Now, I had no idea what to expect. All I ever wanted to do was to be able to walk like everybody else, because I was born with deformed legs that were so crooked that after 100 meters or so, I would be in so much pain. So I had to have to sit down and try and take a rest. Now, 100 meters may seem quite a distance, but we all roughly walk around 5Ks a day, roughly. And 100 meters to be in pain a lot is not a good thing. So I got this opportunity, and to be honest with you, I had no idea what to expect. But all I ever wanted to do was to be able to walk like everybody else. We came to Australia. The sense of freedom was incredible. We went to this house that was built for my mum to do incredible charity work and have kids from all over the world that needed life-saving and life-changing operation. She had this house in a country town called Kilmore, which is about an hour's drive north from Melbourne. And I remember coming to this house and seeing all these kids. Everybody had different sort of conditions, and it just puts everything into perspective. And all of a sudden I realized, well, I haven't got it so tough. We sometimes take things for granted. And when you just see somebody who's pretty much who needs a heart surgery, and if he doesn't have a heart surgery, he could potentially die. You just don't know. So all that is put into perspective, and you get to move on so fast. And you're in an environment where you know, okay, what can I achieve today? What are the different things I can do for somebody else? So growing up as a kid, I had that sort of environment, and it's probably helped shape who I am today. So when the day came that I had to have my surgery, I was pretty nervous, but I had an idea of what everybody else had gone through, and I know somewhat what to expect. But still, it was quite nerve-wracking for me. And I remember the doctors, the nurse tried to talk it down a lot, and after the surgery, I'd woken up with such agony. Pain that I'd never felt before. So what the doctors had done is remove the feet and formed a nice stump shape on my limbs so I could wear prosthetic legs. And all that sounded awesome, but the pain that I had to go through was incredible. But that was the negative thought, is that yes, I'm in a lot of pain. But the positive thought that I quickly turned to was that I want to be able to walk like everybody else. I was in hospital for about a week. I did probably 3 to 5 months of recovery just to get to heal, and before I could start the process of hopefully getting new legs. So once the 5 months had gone over, I was pretty much ready to get these legs fitted, shaped, all that sort of stuff. And I remember a few months later when they were all pretty much ready, I was at this clinic and it was a day that was going to change my life. I was going to be wearing these legs and I would be able to walk like everybody else and with no pain. This was such an incredible day to me. And from that day, everything changed. There were no boundaries. It was all possibilities for me again. And I remember going to school, being able to join all my friends with all the different sports. And it gave me so much excitement and exhilaration as well. We all have lots of different passion, which leads us to where we are today. Some will want to be musicians. Some will want to be storytellers. Some will be singers. We all have different gifts and talents. And today I found out Chelsea could sing, which is quite incredible. So not only she's a phenomenal swimmer, she can also sing. So she's a double talent over here, which is great. But we all have different talents and gifts. And I urge everybody to take those gifts and really do something about it. And do not be afraid of what people are going to think, or maybe you're not going to be accepted. I reckon you should grab it and do the best you can. So I remember the reason why I got into sport was I was inspired by an AFL football match. My mother was inspired to do the charity work through Mother Teresa. Now, I wish I could say that, but I can't really. But this silly football match, as my mum would call it, had inspired me to take on sports. And I remember going back to school the next week and wanting to play footy with all my friends. And I was terrible to start with, I'll be honest with you. But I kept practicing, and then went on to tryouts for the grade 6 footy team, and I was successful there again. That wasn't because Ahmed, you can have the spot. I had to work really hard. Now, whilst you want to do something, you've got to be prepared to do the hard work. It can't all just happen straight away. So I remember the tryouts being quite tough, but it was something I'd prepared for. Again, I succeeded and went on to represent the grade 6 footy team. A year later, went into high school, represented my high school, Assumption College, then my local team, which is where I pretty much found my footing as well. So I ended up kicking a few goals, captained a team for one of the games. Above all, I just enjoyed what I was doing. It was an amazing time. But then some things have to come to an end. And for me, it was when I was getting ready to join the senior footy team. Both my mum and my coach were really concerned about the physical aspects of the sport and what that was going to do to my body and my knees. These legs do weigh about 2.5 kilos each, roughly. Okay, that's just an estimate. So you're trying to run around with those. They're not really designed to be running around on a football field. They're designed for you to do walking and slight leisure sort of activities, but nothing too extreme. But I didn't care. I took them as far as I could. So I remember them giving me this hard talk, and this theme is about the tipping point. Like, how do you give up something you love so much and move on? It was such a challenging time for me. I did get offered a coaching position, but I knew that if I took it up, I wasn't going to be true to myself, because I really still wanted to be part of sport and being physically active myself. So about a few months had gone by and I still hadn't made a decision what I was going to do, and I had no idea. And then finally, the Australian Paralympic Committee, Paralympic Australia today, had this talent identification day where you could try out all the different sports and hopefully be able to represent Australia at a Paralympic Games. For me, my nature was to try everything, and I did do that. I did really well in most sports, but I felt that if I was going to take up a sport, you need the one ingredient that I had when I was playing footy: passion. If you don't have passion, it's hard to take something really beyond the expectations that you might have. Okay, so if you have passion, you'll go a long way with it. So I was really passionate about swimming, and I knew that I could have small goals leading to those big goals. That small goal first ended up being, okay, let's get in the pool, do a few sessions. Then I ended up hopefully trying to make state teams. Then once I wanted to make the state teams, I need to be classified. Now that's a very long process. I don't have time to talk about that today. But I ended up being a low category athlete. Okay, there's not many of us in Australia. I think I'm one of 3 at the moment. But it was something to work towards. All of a sudden, you have a classification. You knew what you started looking up where I needed to be to make to the nationals, to get to the nationals, and then on to hopefully representing Australia. Had an amazing team behind me. Had coaches. So I remember doing like 3 or 4 sessions in the country, moving to Melbourne to try and really take up swimming seriously. I went from about 4 sessions to 12 sessions. By the end of that first week of doing 12 sessions, I honestly felt like a trainer had hit my body. I was so sore. But after a while, you got used to that pain. You got used to being uncomfortable. As elite athletes, we have to get used to being uncomfortable because not everything's going to go our way. And we have to learn to adapt in different scenarios. And I remember making my very first nationals. I was so excited. I'd finally gotten over the state level, got to nationals. I qualified in 2 events. My first event was the 100-meter breaststroke. I was so excited. I was so nervous. Everybody was on the blocks, and I'm still madly trying to get my legs off. And I race over to lane 9, get on the blocks, and I remember marshalling. I had to put these goggles on my forehead, and I get on the blocks. I'm so nervous because I've just held up the whole race, and give the all clear to the ref. Take your marks, and the buzzer goes, and we all dive in. Did the split stroke for breaststroke, and then I'm like, oh no. And what I'd forgotten to do was put these blessed goggles down, and I had to swim the entire 100 meters with these goggles in front of my forehead, and all this water gushing right in front of my face. It was such an uncomfortable feeling, but as I said, athletes, we have to learn to adapt. And what I really needed to do is stay positive, take 25 meters as it came, then the turn. And then before you know it, the race was over. I mean, I was glad I finished the race to start with. It was nowhere near my PB, but it was under the qualifying time, which was a relief to me. From then on, I went on to making the development team and then really never looked back. I was in a very good position to make my first Paralympic Games, which was London 2012. And I remember the 100-meter breaststroke, which was my strength, wasn't an event at the Paralympic Games. So all of a sudden I had to go from a sort of a mid-distance to me to a sprinter. So we had a year to really work hard, and I just scraped in, and I was so excited. I remember reading this letter saying I was part of the 34 athletes going to London. It was like a dream come true. And all the hard work had come to play, and I was ready to go on the plane. It was just an incredible feeling. How do you describe wearing the green and gold? How do you describe being able to wear that gold cap in the pool? It's really, really hard, but it is such an honor. Okay, it's a privilege, and it's not something anybody can do. You have to really work hard for it, and to be able to do that is an incredible feeling. I remember in London, all my goal was to give it my best shot. Okay, I had nothing to lose. That's all I wanted. My attitude was to give it my best. End up walking away with a PB, finishing 4th overall in the 50-meter breaststroke. Then you go to Rio. I wanted to be podium. That was my goal, was to get onto the podium. But in Rio, I had a lot of different challenges. I wasn't getting on well with my coach. It's one of those things I've never had to deal with before. And for me to deal with that was quite challenging. It reflected out in the pool. So I went from like a 4th overall in London to about 7th. But it was all about managing expectation. That's what I learned from Rio, is how do you manage expectation? Well, I wanted to, compared to London, I wanted to be able to be on podium, and that didn't happen. So going to Tokyo now, I decided to do something different. I've moved to AIS and really try to work with Yuri, who was going to be on the Australian team as well. And I really had to work hard to try and make the Paralympic Games again and to hopefully get back onto the podium potential of Paralympic Games. And whilst it's never guaranteed that you're going to get a spot, I'm working very hard. So Tokyo has been delayed, and it's quite annoying, but it gives me another chance, another year to perfect those things and the skills. Well, elite athletes are quite fit. Okay, everybody's really fit when they get on the blocks. And it's so important you work on the skills, because the first thing that goes when you're really, really tired in the pool is your skills. Okay, and then you start fatiguing and you start slowing down. But it's so important that we work on the skills and for them to come like as if second nature. Yeah, I have to really think about it. So in Tokyo, I'm no longer a breaststroker anymore. I mean, breaststroke is still an event, but now I'm focused on the 150-meter individual medley, which I ended up getting silver last year at the World Championship. So it's going to be exciting, and it's going to be awesome to have all the support behind me, and I would love to do you all proud and get on that podium. So thank you so much for having me part of your festival. I wish you the best of luck for whatever it is your goals and your future ambitions are, and really make the most of all your opportunities. Thank you so much.